Hello everyone, welcome to another stream, the first stream in 2023. And today's topic is mainly cursors. So let's get right to it. Here you can see it, drawing of the new cursor that will be used for drawing tools. For example, when I select here ellipse, you can see the new cursor. It's a smaller version of this one, but it is, I hope you can see it, it's larger than it used to be, because for this session I am on Windows 11 because I want to show you how the large cursors work here. So the first thing is that the cursor is now a bit darker to better work with this new brighter canvas. And I generate the cursor when the program is running from vector sources. So it doesn't matter how large you set your cursors to be, it should always be smooth. And you can see that the small symbol next to the crosshair is based on the tool icon, and all the tool icons are now also using vector sources, so there should be no problem with that. So when you are in Windows 11, you can search this. Where is cursor size? It should work. Settings, mouse pointer size. Okay. You now have this slider here that controls the size of the cursor in Windows, and you can see that I have increased it from the default smallest size to something a little bit bigger. And the application is reading this value from Windows and generating these cursors larger. Let me create a raster layer here quickly, because the new dropper tool, as you can see, is also using this new design. And okay, let me draw something to see how it works. In the older version, the transparency value was not indicated on the cursor, and in this new version you can see that transparency is correctly shown on the preview. So this is not transparent color in this layer, and this means the pixel I'm sensing the color of is transparent. This other dropper reads the color from the screen pixel, so it is not able to access the transparency. But if you use the dropper tool in a raster layer, you will be able to read the transparency. Okay, the other change I would like to mention today is in the cursor editor. You can this time also download the preview version of the cursor editor, the latest one, with these changes you can see here. And so I'm not sure whether I have already mentioned this, but when you are creating a cursor, you have an option to select the type of layer you start with. Of course sizes and color depths, but when you are creating large cursors, I have decided that I will be using PNG compression for the larger sizes inside .cur and .ani files, because the PNG compression is actually supported. It was supported in older version, but it was never used because for 32 times 32 pixels it doesn't make that much difference if you compress the image or not. But if you are creating larger cursors, then they can be pretty big, especially when they are animated and in high resolution. It could be megabytes. So in this situation, the cursor editor will compress the images that are 64 times 64 pixels or larger. So that's a change in the cursor editor. You can start testing, using the new cursor editor and testing this feature if it works for you. Let's get back to Real World Paint, and I'd like to mention one more change that I worked on during the last 3 weeks, and that is, maybe I'll delete this layer and add a transformation as a layer style to the top layer that is containing this crosshair. So you can see that the transformation layer style now has these control handles, and you can use it just like the transformation tool to apply transformation to the content of the layer. You have two modes: the standard mode that you can use to rotate and scale the image and of course to move it, and you have also the perspective transformation. That this was the only mode in the old version. Here you control the projection of the original canvas, and this is the final shape of the layer. There are some problems with using the transformation operation as a layer style. Let me show you what I mean. When I click back to the layer and select, for example, this shape, I can actually move it. That was not the case in the older version. In the older version, the control handles and the control lines were in the original place. So if I disable the transformation for a moment, you can see that's not working exactly how it should. Okay, that's not it's a problem I will have to fix. But when I move this shape outside of the original canvas, you can see that it disappears because let me uncheck this, because okay, let's move it halfway up and disable the transformation. You can see that this shape I have moved is out of canvas. It should actually, yeah, now it's correct. I would have to add automatic updates for when you enable and disable this effect. So it is out of canvas, but when the transformation is applied, it is actually not out of canvas. But in this preview, it is the case. So play with it carefully. How can this be beneficial? For example, when I want to create an arrow cursor, let's try this as a new image. It is easier for me to create a cursor like this, facing upwards, especially when I want to have it exact. When I want to have these lines parallel, it is easier to design it like this. And then I can apply the transformation and, for example, rotate it as a cursor. And I will be sure that these lines are parallel if I made them parallel in the original image. You can see on the preview of this layer that the shape is still facing upwards. And when I'm happy with this, I can actually merge the layer style into the layer, and now this is applied. So let me undo. I can freely rotate this shape, but it actually stays as it is. And when I uncheck it and reselect it, I can work in this simplified way, because of course it is easier to design a symmetric shape like this and not have it rotated all the time. So it is one of the use cases. And if you want to use the perspective transformation, then it will be, for example, harder, almost impossible to do without this. If you wanted to have the arrow like that, as if it were on a 3D plane. So that's one thing. Another thing I wanted to talk about today is JPEG XL codec. One user requested it in the past, and he said that he would like to have support for it in Real World Paint. So I checked it out, and I have a preliminary implementation for this codec for Real World Paint, and it is not very spread. It is very new format. There are only a few images on the web. These are some 3 sample images I have downloaded, so they are already kind of working. So you can currently read JPEG XL images in Real World Paint if you download the codec, and I will make it available. This is the cursor editor. I will make it available as a separate file because the codec is actually very large. It's almost 6 megabytes. And when you compare it to the size of the whole Real World Paint, it would increase the size significantly. I'm not very sure why it is so big, but the new codec, the new format is quite extensive. It supports animation, but I'm currently not supporting animation. This is a testing version. You can read and you can write images with it. and you currently cannot choose whether you want to use compression, use lossy or lossless compression, because the new codec is using modern C++ language, and the old I'm still using an older version that is not compatible with it for the majority of real world paint, and I had to use a new version of the Microsoft Visual Studio, and due to this you may encounter some problems. You may need to download some runtime files. You may already have them on your Windows if it's updated, but if it's not working, so contact me and I will send you the names of the files you have to download. In the final version I will address this problem, but for now expect this complication. So if there are any questions, now it's the time to ask, and if not, then I will thank you for viewing and being here with me, and we will meet again in 3 weeks. So I will wait a minute or two if anyone writes a question. Anyway, I will post the link to this file on my blog, and to install it you simply download it and place it into the Real World Paint folder, and you restart Real World Paint, of course. And after that you can open JPEG X5 files, and you can also save files as JPEG XL. I don't remember whether the current version saves in lossy or lossless mode, but it's one of them. So it seems like there are no questions today. I wonder whether the stream was okay, because I'm using another microphone, because the old one is not working on Windows 11. Problems. Okay, so thanks for watching and see you again in 3 weeks.